Welcome to the One Person Shop. I'm Pete Zielinski, Modern Machine Shop. We're doing a video series all about the technologies and techniques that allow a very small shop to be effective. We're at Dan's Custom Machining, Williamsburg, Ohio. Dan Donaworth is sole proprietor, sole machinist, sole programmer at this very small shop. Dan, thanks for having us.
Thank you for having me.
So we're going to talk about vacuum work holding, a technology that you've learned to use very well and has solved some real problems for you. For those who don't know, give us an introduction. What is vacuum work holding?
Vacuum work holding is a system that runs off the compressed air through a venturi that creates a suction form on a part to hold it flat against whatever fixture that you would create. And under perfect load, you get 14.9 pounds per square inch of work holding of downward force that pulls the part to the table.
Work holding the part using air pressure alone. How did you first encounter this? What was the challenge you encountered, and how did you discover this solution?
I had a bunch of thin parts that needed held that were bowing in a vise. They were too thin, too wide, not good to grip in a vise.
So really thin, delicate part, while trying to hold it in a vise, it was bowing. Using air pressure to hold it entirely from underneath is the solution you found. How did your process have to change? How do you have to think differently, for example, about toolpath when vacuum is your holding option?
When you're machining on a vacuum table, your whole approach and your CAM software is going to change. You have to modify your feed rates and your depth of cut and width of cut that you're allowed to take, because in vacuum work holding, side load is going to be your biggest enemy. So you want to try to keep that to a minimum, because you're only holding downward. You don't have anything holding it side to side unless you nest it down inside of a pocket. But either way, the only force working for you is pulling down, not actually surrounding it.
Okay, side load is your enemy, and this is a solution for finicky parts. Is there any other way that vacuum work holding is finicky and you have to think about the job differently?
Yeah, definitely. When you're doing parts with through holes in it, you might want to change how you would go about it. Do the heavy material removal first before you do the holes through. When you do the holes through, you got to actually put the gasket material around the hole to keep it from losing your perfect vacuum, or leave just a little bit in a part and you can tab it off and break it off. If you're doing something that is removing a lot, you could keep more of the material there and then just come down, leave a thou or two, and then you can break that off after you remove the part off the vacuum.
And another problem with through holes or through features is, you mentioned it early on, 14.9 pounds per square inch. The more square inches of engagement you get underneath, the more pounds of holding you get.
Correct. The more surface area you can have under the vacuum, the better. So you want to try to get as much as possible. That's where the tabbing off can even come into handy. If you're doing a small part, you could technically make it out of a larger sheet and then just break it out of it.
All right, keep watching videos in this series. We're going to talk more about ideas, products, technology that allow a very small shop to be very competitive.